Come, sit next to me. Let's chat for a bit about one of the biggest myths we're sold, especially in the spiritual space. It's the idea that there's one true way to peace. That if we just do this one thing, repeat this one mantra, breathe a certain way, or surrender just right, boom, awakening, peace, done. And when that doesn't work, we think we failed. But here's the truth no one tells you. Surrender isn't a switch. It's a process. It unfolds, it deepens, and honestly, it just keeps going. Because surrender isn't a one-time choice. It's a lived experience that keeps revealing more of itself. So many times, we really think we're on the right track. We've bought the book, we're doing the course, we're checking all the boxes, but something still feels off, forced. But when we're in performance mode, chasing the next breakthrough, forcing a feeling, needing to do surrender right, we miss the very path that would lead us home. When surrender becomes something we're trying to achieve, we've already lost touch with what it truly is. A return to life, not another performance. It's such a paradox, isn't it? At first, we so badly want to take control of our surrender, to figure it out, to lock it in, and to never have to question it again. We want the quick clarity, the permanent peace, the checklist we can follow. We want to skip the wandering and just arrive. But that's the very tension surrender invites us to soften into. Because the depth, the fulfillment, the real journey of surrender, it's not something the mind can grasp or strategize. It unfolds through presence, through letting go of needing to know, through falling apart sometimes only to be rebuilt softer. Here's something that took me a long time to accept. Awakening isn't linear. There's no clean stairway that takes you from fear to freedom. It's not one and done. It's not check the box and move on. Surrender doesn't happen in a straight line. It circles, it spirals, and it returns. You come back to the same places, the same fears, the same inner struggles, but each time with a little more compassion, a little more space, a little more knowing. The spiritual path is a spiral. Each turn deepens what came before. And this isn't new. This is the same pattern we see again and again in Scripture. Think about Moses. He didn't receive the call and then walk a clean path to victory. He resisted. He doubted. He returned to the mountain again and again for guidance. The Israelites didn't walk a direct line into the promised land. They circled the wilderness for 40 years. Why? Because the inner shift hadn't fully happened yet. Even Jesus withdrew from the crowds over and over to pray, to be alone, to realign. He didn't arrive at peace. He returned to it, moment by moment. He withdrew to lonely places and prayed. Luke 5:16. And that's what we're doing too. We're learning to come back again and again, not because we failed, but because surrender asks to be remembered, not mastered. Every time you return to the breath, every time you stop mid-fear spiral and choose trust instead, every time you soften instead of clench, that is the process. You're not going backwards, you're deepening. So before surrender even becomes an option, there's something that has to happen first. Awareness. We have to see what's really going on inside us. the tension, the tightness, the resistance we've been carrying, sometimes for years, sometimes without even realizing it. And most of us are walking around totally disconnected from that. We're thinking through everything, fixing, planning, worrying, overanalyzing, but we're not feeling. We're not noticing what's actually happening in our body and in our nervous system. Awareness is the doorway. Surrender can't happen if we don't know what we're holding on to. Try this. Think about a moment when you were trying to figure it all out. Now ask, was your jaw clenched? Were your shoulders tense? Was your breath shallow or even held? That's the body's way of saying, I'm not safe right now. And it's subtle. It can feel normal, but it's not peace. It's survival mode dressed up as productivity. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. That verse isn't just spiritual, it's physiological. Stillness brings awareness, and awareness brings the possibility of surrender. This is where we begin, not by doing more, but by becoming honest with ourselves, by noticing the war we're fighting inside, the gripping, the self-talk, the fear cycles we keep rehearsing. Because once you can see it, you can begin to release it. So here's what's usually happening after we notice the inner tension. We immediately try to fix it. We go searching for the right technique, the perfect affirmation, the breath work, the meditation, the energy clearing, the tapping, the prayer. And don't get me wrong, those things are beautiful. They help. But sometimes the effort behind them isn't coming from love or peace. It's coming from fear. If I can just do this right, I'll finally feel better. It's subtle, but if you pay attention, you'll feel the tightness underneath the effort, the grasping, the pressure to get it right. And when we don't feel peace instantly, we spiral. We think something's wrong with us. We go looking for the next answer, the next healer, the next practice. But sometimes the fight to fix it is the very thing we need to let go of. Unless the Lord builds the house, the builders labor in vain. Psalm 127:1. And I used to think this verse was all about faith. But I see now it's also about energy. If I'm building peace from fear, if I'm trying to force surrender just to get relief, even if I'm using the most spiritual tools, I'm still laboring in vain. Because it's not about how well I build. It's about what energy I'm building from. Am I working from control or from trust? And when I forget, which I do, this verse gently calls me back. Let it be built through love, not fear. When we're trying to do surrender perfectly, we're still operating from the same old energy, control. So instead of trying to fix it, what if we get curious? What if, in those moments of tension, we paused and asked, what am I afraid will happen if I don't fix this? What am I believing right now about myself or the world? That's where surrender begins to take shape. Unclench the jaw, soften the shoulders, let the body be honest. The fix-it energy is understandable. We want relief. We want peace. But peace doesn't come from forcing. It comes from meeting yourself with compassion, right in the mess. At some point, the effort just breaks down. Not because you did anything wrong, but because the part of you that was trying to do surrender finally runs out of steam. You get tired, not the kind of tired that sleep fixes, but the soul tired. The I've tried everything and I still don't feel peace kind of tired. And in that moment, when you finally stop trying to force it, when you're too tired to control anything, something new becomes possible. because the mind can't take you to surrender. It can only take you to the edge of itself. You're not broken. You're breaking open. This is the holy breaking, the burnout, the collapse, the deep sigh when you realize you just can't carry it anymore. My God, why have you forsaken me? Matthew 27:46. Even Jesus had this moment. It wasn't weakness, it was surrender being born through grief, through exhaustion, through feeling completely alone. But here's the sacred truth. That moment when nothing is working, when you feel like you've hit a wall, that's not the end of your path. That is the path. Sometimes we have to reach the end of what we can do before we can finally receive what we truly need. And maybe that's what surrender really is. Not a moment of power, but a moment of release. No more pretending, no more pushing, just letting go. Collapse isn't failure, it's where grace can finally find you. After the exhaustion, there's usually silence. Not clarity, not bliss, just stillness. Maybe even a bit of numbness. And then something small begins to happen. You breathe. Not because it's part of a practice, but because your body just lets go. And you realize you've been holding your breath for years. There's no big insight, no divine download, just a little space, just enough room inside you to not grip so hard. This is what I call the softening. It's not a reward for doing it right. You just stop trying to control the healing. You stop trying to make peace happen, and for the first time in a long time, you just let yourself be held. Into your hands I commit my spirit. Luke 23:46. That wasn't defeat. That was surrender in its most powerful form. Sometimes we think surrender is a decision, like flipping a switch, but more often it feels like this. Just softening the jaw and clenching the hands, letting the tears come and breathing through the ache. This is where you start to feel not fixed, not enlightened, but safe. And that's the beginning of peace. Here's what they don't always tell you. Surrender doesn't mean that fear never comes back. It doesn't mean you stop having spirals or doubts or moments where your whole nervous system wants to take over again. It means that when those moments come, you know how to meet them. Not with control, not with a checklist, but with presence. You start to notice the fear, but you don't grip it. You feel the story rising, but you don't get pulled in. You let the emotions move without letting it define you. Is this mine to carry? That one question can shift everything. This is what it looks like to walk with surrender. It's not about getting it perfect. It's about remembering again and again. And in those moments when you forget, and you will, you'll notice sooner. You'll return more quickly. You'll soften more easily. That's what deepens over time. Ground your feet. Take one hand to your heart. Breathe and say, I'm here. I'm safe. I can let go. Choose this day whom you will serve. Joshua 24:15. Every moment gives us that choice. To serve fear or to return to peace. To follow the spiral or to come back to center. To believe the voice of panic or turn toward presence. Surrender isn't a destination, it's a rhythm. You don't arrive there once. You choose it again and again and again until it starts to feel like home. So if you're waiting for the moment when you finally arrived, when everything feels peaceful forever, when you never doubt, never fear, never spiral again, I want to tell you gently, that moment may never come. And that's not failure, it's freedom. Surrender isn't a mountain you climb and conquer. It's a spiral you walk for the rest of your life. And every time you come back to a familiar fear, a belief that you thought you already healed, a pattern that reemerges out of nowhere, that doesn't mean you're going backwards. It means you're going deeper. The spiral isn't a setback, it's sacred. Think about it. Moses didn't reach the mountain once, he kept going back. The Israelites didn't walk a straight line to peace. They wandered, circled, paused, and returned. Even Jesus' story wasn't a single act. It was a life of deepening trust, repeated surrender, and ultimate release. That's the pattern. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. Proverbs 4:18. That means your light gets brighter as you go, not because it's getting easier, but because you're becoming more and more aligned with what's real. You don't need to rush to the end. There is no end. And in that knowing, you can finally breathe. You can walk this path slowly, gently, willingly. Let it unfold. Let it unfold. Let it deepen. And know that every time you return to your breath, to your body, to that small voice inside that says, let go, to that small voice inside that says, let go, you are doing, to that small voice inside that says, let go, you are doing the work, not because you're trying to get somewhere, but because you're learning to live from the place that never left. You're not doing it wrong. You're doing it bravely. Before you move on with your day, take a breath and ask yourself, where am I still holding on out of fear? And what would it feel like to trust a little more right here? Your journey is sacred. Your timing is perfect. There's no one true way, just the next true step.